I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me. And what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan your own hands can land.
Man, feeling well, man.
What's your name?
My name is Cardi Cornish.
And you a legend?
I'm a legend.
You're a legend here in Baltimore City. Where we at right now?
We live in the 17, Pennsylvania Avenue. The legendary Pennsylvania Avenue.
Man, the last time I saw you here, you were doing something just across the street here. What were you doing?
Oh yeah, I had some food left over from an event. We brung it out. We fed a couple of people, man.
Why you do that?
Nice soul food.
Why you do that?
Man, the love that God has shown me in Christ, man, it overflows. That's how it overflows.
That's right.
We got more than we can.
Already was high within San Antonio Winchester community, but the age group is getting younger. Children under the age of 18 being murdered in San Antonio has a high peak right now. So our goal is to catch the children.
You going hard, man. You going hard on that man today. So what do you think, Mr. Mayor? You got manufacturing right here, helping our young people despite all of the challenges in the city of Baltimore, right here on North Avenue.
No, it's really about the growth. Just knowing being there when they were down in Fort Covington and seeing how far it's grown. Like you said earlier, like getting the Soul Bay, where we got the Soul Bay at the beginning, but now being able to, when I'm at Canyon Yards, get it, or anytime I'm down at Harbor Place to get it, and folks to not even know, but they gonna know now that like this is coming from young people in West Baltimore, right there in West Baltimore on North Avenue, where they think nothing great comes from, but they can see it with the young people.
If you work for it, it's only worth it if you work for it.
Here on the Miami, Mississippi, down right here in Fort Memphis. Beautiful town, just leaving Algiers, which is an update 10 years since Katrina. The news before. All right, y'all, this is what I came to New York for. Besides the Black Wall Street Awards, we're going in here and get some of this real good jerk chicken. Johnny Glover, out.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me.
But we need to feed our loved ones. DOCS needs to rescind this package policy program so that our loved ones are able to eat every day in that filthy facility.
We have some stars in the building.
I feel like no one takes it.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover, entered the winner for the long haul, baby. Listen, first of all, blessed be the name of the Lord. Thank you, God, for another day in the land of the living. We're covering a story, by the way. We're covering a story out there in Carroll County about this young man who got caught up in an incident over the weekend. And let me tell you, we got some reporters all over it. Davon Dabbs. Davon Dabbs was in a car, to my understanding, with some white females, and a white guy rode up on him, and the white guy's now dead. They had guns. They tried to commit violence. The young black man, Mr. Dabbs, called 911, and then they charge him. They're trying to charge him with murder. And so that's a case we will be following. Thank you to Barry Sims at Channel 11. But some heavy-duty lawyers will be getting involved, to my understanding. I'll just save that for later. But long story short, this young man was out there, he was in Tannytown. Black man got in a fight with a white man over a road rage incident. White man's girlfriend pulled the gun on the black man. She pulled the gun. See, that's what I'm telling you. These people get guns, and they just because you got a gun means you in power. Not if you don't know what you're doing. And that's the whole thing about Project 2025, this bloodless American revolution. You lost. The Civil War's over. It's no second revolution. You lost. That's why it's so imperative that we vote. We cannot let idiot man in there because clearly he's an idiot, and anybody that trusts him at the wheel, I don't know what to say about you. Stay away from me. But it's causing unnecessary violence. How do you hate somebody because of the color of their skin, yet you find yourself in a tanning salon all day? I don't get it. You don't like me, but you want to look like me. This has got to stop. Anyway, you think black people got issues in this country? We're not the only ones with issues in this country. We're not the only one with issues with mainstream America. Some of us have indigenous roots. I did a video once on Black Indians, and some of the feedback. One I remember in particular from a black person. They were saying, Donnie, why do you want to be anything but black? Huh? My daddy told my great-grandma was Blackfoot Indian. Where do you get I want to be something other than black from? It's a fact. That's it. On my mother's side, her father was from Puerto Rico. They tend to have Taino Indian in them. That's it. Just a fact. And when we, and I remember during Afro-Latino Day over at the White House, one of the famous actresses that I interviewed was speaking about how sometimes black people shun other black people for acknowledging their non-black American roots. Silly. Here's something I pose to every black person out there. Prove to me you are a descendant of a slave. Can you? Do you even know you were a descendant of a slave? I say that because we had on the show, and God rest her soul, Dr. Helena Hicks. And Dr. Helena Hicks said that she did not have a history of slavery in her family lineage. But we assume, starts with an S, ends with you and me. We assume that we know that we were descendants of slaves. You don't necessarily know that. Do you have some evidence? All you know is what some idiot told you. I need a woosah moment. Woosah. Red Tail, Ashe.
Good day, Mr. Glover. How are you? And congratulations on all your progress so far.
Yeah, I got a third book coming. It should be coming to me today. This was first, Unapologetically Black. This was second, and now Journalpreneur is coming up. Tavis, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me on the platform. How are you?
You know, we got to have you on here.
We
have to have you on here. Any thoughts on my opening?
We are living in very dangerous times. And us black men, particularly us black men, need to know and recognize that we put ourselves in harm's way when we are outside of our neighborhood and we're dealing with women that are not a part of our ethnicity, I'll say. And that's just a fact. And I want to say that first.
Get Out. You remember the movie Get Out? Did you see it?
I did. and it's a very unfortunate. It's not our issue, right? However, we have to recognize that we have a collective group of people here in the United States that perceives us as their enemy, always has, and until those individuals always will. I mean, we see it now with the continuation of Manifest Destiny, and colonialism and imperialism trying to take hold in our country.
Let's talk about that Manifest Destiny. For those who don't know, what is Manifest Destiny?
So Manifest Destiny is an ideology that the colonizers came up with to make themselves feel good, right? an idea that they are God's chosen people. And, and because they're God's chosen people, they have the right to do
I'm sorry.
anything and everything necessary to to pave the way for the coming of the Christ,
Oh, who?
of their Messiah,
Who is that?
Jesus Christ. From
Nah, come on, stop playing.
no, that's literally what manifest destiny is, and that's what they
Not buying
use.
it. Not buying it. Not buying it.
Yeah, that's
Not buying
their.
it. Matter of fact, if that's what's in their book, I don't want nothing to do with their book.
Mm-hmm,
Give me the original book, because this watered down version it keeps. The more I look at this watered down version, the less I see me. When I know, according to the scripture,
well, I'll let you know one. I'll tell you
man,
what. You think black people have a problem here, right? And we do. Try identifying as black Indian, because just like you said, we have the blacks that shun us, but the Indians don't want anything to do with us either, because
and
as
I don't
far as
want
they're
nothing to do with
concerned,
them.
I don't mind being I don't
Let
mind
me
being
let
friends
me
with
say this,
anybody.
Tab. Me and my lady were talking about Africa, and she said something similar, and it was a broad brush, and I don't like broad brush. She said Africans, and that's a broad brush because there are 54 countries, a multiplicity of tribes, dialects, thousands of dialects, and for me to say all Africans this or all Africans that is just like saying all black people this, all white people that. That's a broad brush. I've had universal experiences with Africans from various parts of the continent. What I'm getting to is she was saying that a lot of, let's say it like this, a lot of Africans have this condescending perception of black Americans. And I'm like, time out. Dude, if you only know me through something that mainstream media told you, then you have the problem of being so ignorant as to believe what they say about me without getting to know me for yourself. Remember when you was a kid, when you were a kid, your mother, your parents, they said, get to know somebody for yourself. But little kids be like, I don't like him. And so if you're going to be my friend, you can't like him. But hold up. Because he punched you in your face don't mean he punched me in my face. Maybe you said something slick out your mouth. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, Tab. I'm on the roll. I done had my coffee. Let's do it.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. And, however, I would like to say that as a black community here, right, we allow that to happen to ourselves by the very same people that's teaching everybody else who we are. And so we need to get our business straight first. We educated by them, right? We employed by them. Our housing is given to us by them, right? They are changing our government in front of our face,
Project
so that
2025.
they continue to keep charge. And I will say this one thing, just like you said, wait a second. If they teach us our identity, our history, our law, our culture, and everything else, and we know they lying to us, when you have a black person, such as myself, a colored individual, sharing a history that has been omitted from the mainstream, I would like for individuals to offer some humility and take a moment to review the facts, because it's okay for a white person to stand next to you or stand in front of you with credentials and tell you, hey, based on our story, you are a slave, right? And we know that in law, and that's the thing. I have this my mother and I have a new series called The Genocide of the Dark Skinned Indian. It's up on YouTube if you want to search for it. And our issue with our main point in sharing this overall story of the 10 stages in genocide is to highlight and show how, just like you said, if the colonizers can tell the story, then they can dictate the history and the future of who we are as a people. And I would like for individuals to reconsider that, take a look back at history and ask yourself, why did they put in law in 1924 in Oklahoma that if you are a Negro, then you're considered a slave. And if you're considered a slave, then you're considered African in descent. That was an opinion by a Supreme Court justice in Oklahoma 100 years ago, literally 100 years ago this year. 100 years later, everybody accepts that as a fact.
Tell them
Even
about the
our
Dawes
community.
Commission. Tell them about the Dawes Commission out there in Oklahoma. Tell them about the panel of white boys who, yeah, we're taking questions. We are taking questions. Bring it on, Pashad.
I would love questions. Yeah. I mean, again, the Dawes Commission was a collective, it was a group, a department that was put together by the United States of 5 European men who were to issue the processes for identifying who was a Native American and who was not, and then placing those individuals in those tribes under the care of the United States. And so when you think about the Indian population here in the United States today, legally they're considered a dependent state. They're dependent. So when they say they're sovereign and things like that, it's actually not. It's another lie that they're teaching the Indians, because the Indians don't know, because again, just like us, they're being taught by the
people. Let me tell you one thing the Indians don't know, and it's in my second book. We know about the indigenous peoples that came to America from Asia through the Bering Strait. We know about them.
About 14,000
to 12,000 years old, and they are often perceived as the original American. That's why you got to get this book. Nothing earth-shattering, but I do identify the oldest bones in the Americas, and it was that of a big-headed black woman. And let me tell you, and I say that jokingly, she had a full forehead. She had what we call a 5-head, but Brazilian women, they got a full forehead. No biggie. I got a blockhead myself. But her name was Luzia, and you can look it up. Luzia. Luzia, Brazil. They found her bones in a cave in Brazil, 12 to 14,000 years old at minimum. Let me tell you this. Where originally they took the DNA and reconstructed this full forehead black woman who walked to the Americas sometime during a different era. Now, a year later, now her facial features, she's still dark skinned, but her facial features are narrowing. They're trying to say that the what they originally came up with, racism is so cancerous, it's so insidious. These folks just can't believe that a black person was here first. It's like Dodo. You do know that black people got the oldest DNA on earth. How can you possibly take a copy and project it like it's the original? Oldest DNA on earth comes from Namibia, the San Bushmen. Go look it up. But we so quick to believe this fool, this idiot who don't even know his own history. I'm sorry. I'll shut up and post comments.
You know what? I would just like to jump in there and say that, in 2018, the National Geographic came out with an article, speaking about these bones that they're finding in Yucatan that are dating to be somewhere between 18 and 24,000 years old. And they say that these bones have more of affinity to the Southern Asian than the Northern Asian. And if anybody know anything about the Southern Asian, they look like me and Mr. Don over here, right? They same color, period, right? And so what they're telling us in their science is that there was a melanated population that was existing in the Americas prior. What I would just like to point out is that I want people to search Topper, South Carolina.
Topper?
South Carolina. And the South Carolina University has been doing a dig there for about 20 years on the oldest site of human activity in North America. And
Really?
guess how old some of the sediments and the burnt foods are?
30,000?
51 to 52,000 years ago. And so
Wow.
what that suggests is that when the human was migrating out of Central Africa north and westward, they also migrated eastward,
Yeah.
and that they jumped on that. They call it the transatlantic current, which
Yeah.
will take you from the slave port in Ghana, Africa, to my hometown in South Carolina in 11 days without navigation, no matter what you put there.
You
Put
just drift right in.
it just in 11 days. And so with that fact not being shared, but being a fact in historical data, they know that a melanated colored population has been existing in the southeastern portions of the United States for 50,000 years at least. These people eventually became known as the mound builders, and in the 1700s, they stopped building mounds, and their identity and their title changed to slave or Negro.
You
And so
got to
our
slow down.
history,
You got to slow down, Tavis.
Mhm.
You got to tell them what a mound is. You mean a mound pyramid?
yeah, so a mound is, so in the United States, we don't have the stones, we don't have the rocks, particularly east of the Mississippi, where they called it the Southern Cult existed, the Mississippian mound builders, which was a
The
pyramid.
Mississippian mound builders, just like the Mississippi River. So when we say Mississippi, that thing is so deep in our DNA. First of all, it's an indigenous name. It's one that we are accustomed to in our subconscious. That's how it's always in us. It's not just Mississippi like racial 1950s, 1910. You talking about hundreds and thousands of years old.
Yes, yes, yes. And again, they were actually the first cultures that existed here in the Americas prior to the Olmecs, even prior to the Olmecs, to the Aztecs, to the Mayans.
You got to tell them who the Olmecs are. OLMEC. Who are the Olmecs?
The Olmecs were the pyramidal, the Olmecs were the culture, melanated culture that existed prior to the Mayans and the Aztecs in the Yucatan, the Mexico region.
And they had a real pleptoid nose and real full lips.
Some of them.
Modern day Nigerians, if you ask me. But when I put that up there, I had these Mexicans come at me and say, "SA, they are Mexican, they're Mexicano." Like, come on, dog.
Now, look, but wait a second. Mexicans is our color too.
I know.
And so there's a concept and an ownership that our oppressors have placed inside of us as a people that makes us think that we are not connected to other peoples.
They are cousins.
Everyone is connected, and so while the histories are important and specific histories are important, we have to recognize that there is not a monolith and that our histories do cross paths, right? And we are connected. But I just wanted to finish up by saying that the Mississippian mound builders were the first pyramid building culture in the world. Our pyramids here in the United States are older than any pyramid in the world. And they know who built these pyramids because these pyramids were being built up until the 1700s. And so my question to everyone is, wait a second, who was building these pyramids in the 1700s and where did they go? And they're your great grandfathers and great grandmothers And we just now lost the ability over the last 200-300 years to know how to build pyramids. That's a thing for us to consider as far as how recent our greatness is within inside of our bloodline, and that we can revitalize that and get those ancient ways back. We knew how to build pyramids.
There's one right around the corner here on Patterson Park Avenue, a mound pyramid, a pyramid made of grass.
Right, the Philadelphia Art Museum, one of the most famous art museums in the world, is built on a pyramid mound built by Native Americans here in the United States.
Hey, look, I want you to try to handle some of these questions. This is from,
Sure.
and let me pronounce his name right. He gave me Picard. Picard. So let me put it up. There you go.
How do I go about tracking my Native American heritage? My people are from Alabama and tracked my surname down to the Choctaws. Sound like you're doing a pretty good job. However, I'm going to acknowledge that the United States developed the political body so that brown people wouldn't be identified as Indian using their paperwork systems. And so what I would suggest that you do is learn the history of the area that your family came from, look at the census records, and look at looking within the archives of churches, the county records.
South Carolina's records are horrible versus Richmond, Virginia. I understand that you can get better records from Virginia, Richmond in particular, about our people than you can from South Carolina. I understand that South Carolina is unorganized.
So it's one of the issues, and to wrap it all up, is that the Ku Klux Klan went through in the 20s and 30s and burnt a lot of our churches and burnt a lot of our records so that we wouldn't be able to know who we were. And so that's also an issue that you have. But with that being said, in the 17, in the 18, and in the early 1900s, mulatto meant that you was a Native American. So if anybody has mulatto on their birth certificates, they was Native American.
And so we got to understand different code, just like they got code today, like Project 2025 code, wink, wink, put your black hind parts back in somebody's chain, and that's not happening. They had codes back then, and they always got codes. We just got to. But we always had our own code too.
Mm-hmm.
I was at an event, and my boy said, "Where these pilgrims come from?"
Well, we have a lot of pilgrims. We have a lot of pilgrims that are identifying as the Indian of the East Coast.
Tell them about the $5 Indian, Tavis.
Yeah, $5 Indian. It's a real thing. I don't like using the term, but the reality of it is that during the late 1800s, early 1900s, the Department of Indian Affairs, the BIA, the Dawes Rolls, and other organizations that control the Indian population now allowed colonizers to buy their Indian status for $5. And the children of those individuals are still allowed to be Indian today. And so while it may be used as a negative connotation, it's a reality, right? And so us as a black community recognizing that was mainly used against us, we have to recognize that spilling hate on other people really ain't gonna help build bridges, and that what we need to do is recognize that the United States screwed us up really, really, really bad. And until I'm able to sit next to someone that looks like me, that calls themselves African, and feel like they my brother, and we figure out what our main issue is, and until all of us do that, we're gonna have MAGA folk controlling our government.
Project 2025. Thank you, Taraji. Look it up. You got a smartphone? Google Project 2025. I don't think it's saying much good about us. $22 million document, 920 pages, and they got the audacity to insert God. I don't like your God. I don't serve that God. Your God don't like me, and I don't like you. Okay.
You came here, you came here twisting, words of, your so-called prophesizers, and use that to make people feel good about enslaving us, and are using that today to make people feel like they're better than us, and that they have a right to tell
If
us
you
how
better
to
than me,
control our
why
world.
your butt in a tanning salon? I'm just curious.
I'll have a question for that. I don't have an answer for that one.
You don't like me because I'm black, but you in a tanning salon. I got time. Go ahead, explain that to me.
I cannot explain that. Although I must admit, I like to sit in the sun too. And in the wintertime, when I get a little bit
Tavis,
lighter, I'll be like, yo.
Tavis, they are recruiting black men to Japan.
Hmm.
They say the Japanese men are underproducing.
Hmm.
I just saw online over the weekend a mixer in Poland. They're
Yes.
recruiting black men to Poland. I saw black men doing a two-step with white Polish women. Yakshimas,
The
Dubsy, Boatsy,
Netherlands,
Dubsy. What's up with that?
the Netherlands is paying you $400,000 to move there and to have a baby. You got to have a baby too, though. So the world is changing, right? And
Dr.
what happens?
Jane Elliott said the African is increasingly desirable amidst global warming.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading an interesting comment over here. Say that again.
Dr. Jane Elliott has predicted that the African is more desirable than ever because of global warming. Global warming is having an adverse effect on non-black people, non-melanated people. They are underproducing. Their reproductive rate is going down. And when you look around America, ain't nobody out reproducing the Latinos. They done come in, they done shot right on past black people. They making babies. I'm down here at the harbor. They 15 deep, 3 generations.
They making babies like we used to 150 years ago. And our mindset has been colonized. Our what we think that we should be is what they taught us to be at this point. And that's what, for the men, what we think a man is, and how we think we should be treating our women. And the same thing with our women, how they think they should be treated, how they think they should be treating us, and what we should be doing for them. All of that is something that we've been taught at this point, and it's totally against our normal existence, no matter where you say you from. If you colored and you say, if you're colored, I don't care where you say you're from, you go back to those in that area and how those people conduct themselves. And we have been colonized. Our mindset has been colonized.
All right, Tabs, here's the $1 billion question for the day. You know I like baseball. Stepping up to the plate. I'm coming with the curveball. You ready?
Yes.
Should I subscribe to Ancestry.com?
If you know, well,
should I base my history on
No.
the results solely of Ancestry.com? Because then
No.
I got to ask, well, who is behind Ancestry.com and what is their motivation and why you need to know all my information? And at Ancestry.com, will they tell me if I'm a black Indian?
No, they don't test for that. And that's the thing. Why are you getting information from Ancestry.com? And you know, the Ancestry.com, 23andMe, and all of them, they'll tell you, if you read it, that they don't test in the Native American east of the Mississippi. And so when you
But they my people.
But they don't want you to identify as a native, because see what happens here. What happens when a group of people that are about 25 to 35 million people deep that have and find out that they've been living on the same land for 1,000 years?
Oh, that I never came here in the bottom of a slave ship. We've been here.
And so, oh, this is my land. And if this is
I'm
my
not a
land,
descendant of slavery. I'm a descendant of a prisoner of war.
and so that means that we can use law to regain some of our autonomy, some of our lands back. There's actually processes established within side of the legal framework of how the world works right now, where if we organize correctly, there's actually departments and things already established at the international level that would force the United States to give up territories, to fund a government for those peoples for a specific amount of time so that we could jumpstart our economics and things like that. The United States don't want us to wake up, because then we can choose our own president and have our economic situation
He
be
won't be
equal
orange
to.
either. Hey, look, I gotta do a plug because I rarely promote my stuff. First book 2015, second book 2021. My third one is just out. It comes in the mail today, Journalpreneur. Did you know, and I put it in this book, I Am Black Wall Street, did you know that Spain owned Florida until 1831? That meant if you were in chains and you escaped to Florida from Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, if you made it to Florida, you could get your freedom. You had to agree to convert to Catholicism and to fight for the Spanish crown. They don't tell us that. They don't tell us that blacks in Florida were strapped.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
They
why.
had guns. And that Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill was on a mission like Donald Trump to rid Florida of melanated people who had that ion in their hand. Andrew Jackson was not our friend.
Any of the presidents, our friend. One of my grandfathers were one of the presidents of the United States, and he wasn't our friend either, right? And so, interesting enough, we didn't get written out of his history. However, the my great grandmother that married that had the babies with Tyler, the President Tyler, she was written out of our family tree for 2 generations, because we the ones there was like, you messing with them, we don't know. We ain't even going to add you into our books. And so, we have to recognize that there's a cyclical issue that's happening between our communities that's allowing this to continue. And we have to stop. We have to acknowledge, like, look, I have one white person in my family, and he was the president of the United States, and he ain't do us no justice. However, we have, that's part of me, right? And I'm like, okay, now what can I do to help my third cousins respect me, acknowledge me, and then acknowledge my history? Is a lot. I'm actually from the DMV area, like so much so, right? Maryland, Baltimore, and that northern neck area. So yeah, that's where I'm in. So a lot, it's my history, my indigeneity, my family bloodline is like all through there, and that's why I love coming on the show and sharing, because I'm hoping I'm reaching some of my cousins,
You
and
are
that
reaching
we
your
organize.
Tell them your mom's name.
Yes, my mom is actually Renee Elizabeth Brown from the North Virginia area. She's now Renee Sanders. That's my father's last name is Sanders. My mother's last name is Brown. So we're Browns from the North Virginia, Maryland area. We're also Mormons, Brisbees, and Atkins, right? And all of those are names that you'll find on various tribal rolls in the area. But my mother is a teacher for 35 years in public school systems in Philadelphia and in Atlanta. And right now, my mother is the co-founder of a nonprofit, Indigenous Education. Check us out, indedu.org, where we're doing we're educating people about the omitted history of brown and darker skinned indigenous peoples in the United States. I love her.
Tavis, when I was in elementary school, when I was a little kid, I used to love to watch cowboy and Indian movies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, I had the little cowboy hat, had the holster with the 2 guns, but I was a big fan of the Indians. I remember watching this one movie where the Indians kicked the cowboys' hind parts, and they wasn't black cowboys, but just as a little kid, I had this attraction, this deep attraction that I couldn't explain to the Indians. I would, time would go on. My father would explain to me that my great-grandmother was a Blackfoot Indian. And the only picture I ever saw of her, she was looking real stoic.
Mm.
And he would always say, God, I wish that man was here. He would say, man, my grandmother had a bucket of water on her head, one in each hand, and would never spill a drop.
Mm.
He also told me the story of his grandfather, his father, who had to leave South Carolina because he shot a white man.
Mm.
But this is what I want to pose to you. He only told me that story one time. All these other stories I would hear over and over. And I think it's because he never really wanted me to bust a cap with nobody, especially because of race, because he didn't teach me racism. Mm. But I did want to ask you this. Have you, and I don't know if I've asked you before in previous interviews, have we talked about in Las Vegas, in Arizona, in the Grand Canyon, about Kincaid's Cave?
We need to talk about it. We didn't. We glanced over it the last time, but I think that the audience needs to, be aware of all of these artifacts, right? All of these human remains. All of these gold and Egyptian artifacts at that point, right? And interesting enough, if you look at the imagery of the Southern Coast from, let's say, 1500 to maybe not 8,000 years ago, you'll see a very, very, very similar construction to the imagery of ancient Egypt, right? And so also, if you are paying attention, and I know we're moving off of out of the Grand Canyon a little bit, but I want people to recognize that if you ever heard of the La Venta, if you ever heard of La Venta, La Venta is a pyramid mound in Mexico, right? And if you look at the pyramids in Egypt, if I'm not mistaken, they are aligned together. And so you can literally take the imagery of one.
Is aligned with the
Giza. They literally are aligned, which means that they had to be communicating with each other. And they had to be doing this together as one group. They literally are aligned at the, 8 degrees west of north angle. I mean, you can literally place one image on top of the other and not know which one you're looking at. And so I'm saying all that to state that these artifacts, these human remains, these temples and gold things that they are finding in the Grand Canyon that are dating to and before the pyramids are also connected to us, and that we were a group that was one. We were communicating. We were building as one.
Slightly off topic, but yet on topic. Eric raises, it's not that blacks are not making babies, but they are aborting them. Nobody wants to talk about this. Eric, thank you. Nobody wants to talk about Margaret Sanger, not Singer, Sanger, Sanger. No one wants to talk about her mentor, Charles Galton, Galton. Nobody wants to talk about his cousin, Charles Darwin. They came up with this eugenics, EUGENICS, this creation of the so-called master race. And of course, Jesse Owens went over there in Germany and dispelled all of that foolishness. But Margaret Sanger is the creator, and she used some prominent black people to push this agenda. She was the creator of Planned Parenthood. Now, Margaret Sanger said that black people are like weeds. who need to be exterminated. Now they'll deny that to this day, yet they want to increase all of the Planned Parenthood clinics in the black community. Mind you, they just came out with this Roe v. Wade. They trying to take abortion off the table. They want white women to have more babies. They want black people to have less babies. Like in Brazil. Brazil has the largest population of black people outside of Africa. There are 44.4 million black people in the U.S., 100 million in Brazil. The Portuguese were down with slavery and exacerbating the black population in Brazil 100 years before the British and them people come up yet. All of that to say, in Brazil, they started importing white people to try to balance it out. Mm-hmm. Now, we know one drop of black blood is still black. And India played them games too. You know, India got the untouchables, you know, all of these different shades. Black is black with straight hair. But then they come to America and they want to look down their nose at black people. Y'all need to get y'all stuff together. Stop that fool. Stop. And we have a common enemy, the British.
Well, you know, I'm going to acknowledge that the British did just elect. They did just elect the left, leaning
they kicked the conservative
president.
Out.
They kicked the conservative out, and so they doing better than we doing right now. Even with all of that being said, because the reality of the situation is that our country is backtracking, and it's and the reality of it is that if we continue to backtrack, then I can see white only restaurants again, because that's what they want.
Nobody gonna eat that food.
Nobody gonna eat the food, but that's what they want.
Bland. Bland.
And so I would say that, just to get back to the eugenics and abortions and things, black people always
take it to Africa too. That's the ultimate goal.
Okay, right. But black people we was always aborting. It's not nothing new in our community. We taught them that. We knew what herbs to take.
Their help.
We didn't need their help. When we knew, that this young girl don't need to be having no child right now, and so, that wasn't something that's not new to us. What's new to us is that we are choosing. Yeah, we are prisoners of war. What's new to us is that we are choosing to say, you know what, my lifestyle ain't really fit for me to be having 7, 9, 12 children. So I'm gonna just have this one baby, and I'm gonna go and live this colonial life so that I can be content and happy and have a really easy course, because it's not on me about what happened to my people. Let somebody else do that. And that's what's been happening to us.
That individualism that we learned from America. We come from a collected communalism. We come from that, a communalism, not communism, communal, the group. We used to live 15 deep. Now we watch the Latinos live 15, 20, 30 deep. We don't even want to live. We really want to live by ourselves now.
And we watch them do that, and then we laugh. And in 10 years, they've progressed beyond us, and we still in the same spot. And so,
they do jobs that we used to do that we don't want to do. We rather stand. Not all of us, but I live in Sandtown. I see a cat stand on a corner all day, making enough money to buy a pair of tennis shoes.
Well, I'm from Philly. I'm from Philly, so we got the same thing, right? I walk past individuals that I grew up with that are still on the same block, and I'm asking them like, "Yo, what's up? What you doing?" And they're content. You know what I mean? And so that's our issue, particularly, men, and particularly urban men in these streets. They beat us down so much that we are content with living a lesser life, because it's too much ownership on who I am and what I'm doing. If I say, you know what, we got to do better, because now I got to be more responsible than I need to be if I just allow things to continue as they are continuing.
Picard said there's a fort in Appalachia called Negro Fort. There's also a fort in Florida named Negro Fort, one of the first places there. And look, there's so much Black history in Florida. The first Blacks in Oklahoma came out of Florida. Chief John Horse. I write about him in this book. Chief John Horse. They fought to a truce with the Seminoles. The Seminoles didn't like Chief John Horse because he made a truce, and so he took 200 Black families on the Trail of Tears. But they weren't slaves. They were soldiers. They fought to a truce. They got iron. They got weapons. They went to Oklahoma 1843. We're taught that all of the Blacks on the Trail of Tears were slaves. Not true. If you don't read and learn your history, you let some idiot who don't know his own try to tell you that. I got a problem with that. If you knew your history, I had a white professor. He was a beast on Black history. But if you're not a beast on Black history, don't come over here trying to tell me mine. More importantly, I need to go find out mine for myself.
Let me ask you a question. You think about this for a second. I'm giving you a scenario because I want to ask the question. I just conquered you. I went to war and I won. And I'm telling you, you got to go. And so you can go over there. And so I need you to take you and yours and go over there. Where's the slave at in all of this story?
None.
I've been conquered. Wouldn't you take my slaves and send me on my way? Why would you send me with my slaves? Is they worth money to me? And so there was no such thing as the Indians allowed to take their slaves with them. That's a made up story. There were no slaves on that trail. Everybody that was on that trail went on that trail because they wanted to keep their status versus if you stayed, you didn't keep your status. And that was the choice. And so the people that they say were slaves were just Negro. And because they were Negro, the system has put in law that they were a slave. And so they get to tell that story for 150 years. And now we think that there were slaves on that trail. There were no slaves on that trail at all. And it don't make sense for me to beat you up and then send you with your resources somewhere else. No, give me your resources too. If I got jumped on these streets or if I fought in these streets, after I win, I'm going in your pockets, because you made me, you in my way. What you got? Give me that. Let me see. And then go. Leave me alone. And I'm going to take mine and I'm going to go too. And so our history, right? And there are beasts in Black history that was taught by doctorates of University of Penn. Right. And so if you got your doctorate degree from a colonial institution and you think you're a beast at Black history, I'm going to say, okay, you know the Black history that they want you to know. Now, what else do you know?
Now you're going to make me pull up Skip Gates, Henry Louis Gates. He said that only 2 to 3% of Black people have indigenous roots. Time out, Skippy. Did you interview all of these people or are you reading something out of a Harvard book? Because of the Black people I've met, I got 9,000 phone numbers in here. I done heard more than 2 or 3% say that they got some indigenous roots.
In the 1990 Smithsonian Handbook of American Ethnology.
Skippy.
American Ethnology, right? Okay, it says the Smithsonian Institute 1992 Annual Report of American Ethnology, page 233. A considerable portion of the blood of the Southern Negro is unquestionably Indian. And what is the Southern Negro? The Southern Negro at that time was any Negro that lived south of New York, over through the Mississippi Valley and down to the Gulf region. And so the the facts.
It's hard for us to wrap our brain around it because they done sold us
Right.
this slavery narrative, the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. You know, we man, I dated.
When did the
once
first
spent,
African come to the United States shores, according to their history? Jamestown, 1922, right? The Dutch Man of War. When they sold.
That's far too late.
That's far too late. However, my point was that, well, the Dutch Man of War was supposed to sell the first slaves in Jamestown in 1619. Where did the Dutch Man of War get those people from? They didn't get them from Africa. They got them from the islands. And so they know that at least 10 of the people that were sold were Native Americans. They were not African. And so even the history that we told as far as who these slaves were when the first slaves supposedly got here is a lie.
If anything, they were taking black people from these shores and sending them to Europe.
And for every African, the law was for every African that came into the colonies, 10 Native American men had to be shipped out. So if we think the African slavery was an issue, we don't even, for every one African that was enslaved, they enslaved 10 of us and moved us. They had to ship us out in order for them to bring one African in.
We got it twisted. We think that we were shipped in. We were shipped out.
We were shipped out. We were, and just imagine what that does to colonial history, and imagine what that does to our children learning that. Imagine if we learned that in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. What kind of people would we be today?
Even stronger. See, most of us know that there's something that we don't know about ourselves. And we know that preacher can hoop and holler all day on Sunday morning, but if you only reading me Genesis to Revelations and you ain't having this conversation, you lacking something. If you're not mentioning out there in Arizona in the middle of the Grand Canyon how you got Egyptian artifacts, if you're not putting that in the story, I don't want to hear about your version of Jesus, because you lie, fork tongue.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, we looking into it right now. And I just would like to acknowledge, and I want to say to everybody here, because I really don't get a chance to say that on my platforms because I'm not allowed to, but I really need y'all to vote, right? And I need y'all to make sure that y'all vote. I don't care if he weekend at Bernie's, because the people that's using them strings on weekend at Bernie's is way better than this Viking extremist on the other end that we got, right? And so I just would like to acknowledge that, Black people, we I'm going to say from my perspective, I think that Black people like authoritative type of status, right? Or type of men, or we need a leader for some reason. We can't do it. We always, well, where's our Black leader? Where's our Black leader? And they're like, and to some degree, I feel like we want a Black leader that's kind of like Trump. And that's my issue. Like, I don't need no leader, and especially don't need an authoritative, autocratic leader. But that's what we be searching for in the Black community too.
I wish Trump was born in my household, because my daddy would have whipped his ass. Hey, listen, the Lone Ranger was a Black man. His name was Bass Reeves, and he had more testicular fortitude than all of the people around him. That's why he was a bad man, because those people around him, not trying to be polite, they were scared. But Bass Reeves wasn't scared of nothing.
Right, and we can't be scared today. We got to be.
I got to tell you, this has been. We've done several shows together. We've got more feedback this time, and so we got to keep this going. We do a show once every 6 months or so. This, man, the numbers are through the roof. Thank y'all. I mean, mad love. Eric Croxton, Naj Sings, Abria, Free Papa TV, Picard, Bam Rubin. Man, you got people, Monopole Joe, you got people all over. Hey, Tab, this is your best one ever.
Man, I appreciate you for allowing me to speak freely.
Man,
Because
we
again, I'm
have,
always
Jack.
doing, most of my stuff is always having to be, constructed, because, I'm saving myself for the future, and because I'm ready, and so thanks for allowing me to just speak freely and share this information.
Well, thank you. You never turn me down. I say, Tab, it's time. You like, okay, what time? Let's go.
Let's go. That's what we're supposed
Almost
to do.
a third of the original census data has been lost or destroyed. They burn records, just like they burn records in Timbuktu, Mali, Songhai. They burn records in South Carolina. They don't want us to know the truth. You can't handle the truth.
But we're going to teach it to them. So, yeah.
Let's take away European names.
Well, Brown was not a European name. A lot of these names is not ones that was so-called by our enslavers. It was names.
How many of us know that Mississippi is not a European name? That's indigenous, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mississippians. We don't know that we are very much descendants of the Mississippians, who were indigenous peoples. The first black that I found that came to America in modern times was named Juan Garrido.
That
Juan
story.
Garrido, he was a Spanish conquistador.
Mm-hmm.
He was not enslaved. And little Stephen or little Esteban went from Florida all the way around to Mexico. The first Mexico had a black president.
Mm-hmm.
The first king of Hawaii was a black man, King Kamehameha. Santa Claus was a black man from Turkey. But we don't want to believe that.
Who freed the slaves in Mexico? The first black president. Much to talk about. Hope that we can get a chance to do this again.
Man, I got to put the rest of you. Just bear with me a second. I'm putting my Vic and Bertrand. I guess some of these, I will tell you, Africa will only tell you you are from Africa. Yeah, we're more than Africa. And you cannot settle with what Ancestry.com. They not, if it ain't on, oh, come on, man. Them people can't tell you.
Everybody's from Africa. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, wait a second, where do white people come from? They came from Africa.
Ancestry.com was invented to hide the Negro bones in Seneca Village. That's New York City, 82nd to 89th Street, Manhattan. That's the black community that they took by eminent domain in Manhattan. Negro bones found underneath Washington Square. Hit that like button, tribe. Hit that like button. Share this. Abria, she's been a big help. Man, we got more comments than ever before, Abria. Those were marked by Duke called conquerors. People, they are indigenous and migrated. Black people, learn your history for yourself. Don't believe nothing nobody tell you. They're never going to tell you the truth. Brazil,
and check us out at Indigenous Education if you're interested in learning more history.
Look, let me let you do a commercial.
Thank you. I'm Tavis Sanders of Indigenous Education. You can check us out at indedu.org. Or if you're interested in checking out our most recent program called The Genocide of the Dark-Skinned Indian, please check us out on YouTube at Indigenous Education. You could check us out on DC TV if you're in the Maryland, DC, North Virginia area. And you could check us out on Philly Cam if you are in the Philadelphia region on channel 66 and Comcast Verizon 29. So thank you very much. Please subscribe, Indigenous Education. Please subscribe to Be More News, and we hope that you continue to engage with us. Definitely support, and we love your donation.
Your mom ain't gonna kick me in the butt. Let's put a plug in for your mom, because she's been a fearless fighter with us all along.
Yes, so just like Mr. Glover here, my mother her name is Renee Sanders. She's also the co-founder of Indigenous Education. She has two books that y'all might be interested in reading called Revealing America's Dark-Skinned Past, Volume 1, and Revealing America's Past, Volume 2, the Columbian Era, and which actually begins to speak about the Mississippian cultures and some of the history of the southeastern portions of the United States prior to Columbus's arrival. And so definitely please check us out. And again, if you're interested in supporting our cause, we definitely need your help. So please donate. We are a nonprofit, so your donations are tax deductible. And that's cool. Thank you.
This has been a great show, man. Big ups to all of the people who have followed us. Like this, share this. Tell somebody about Tavis. Tavis, put your phone number out there, man.
Man, I ain't putting my phone number out there, but I will give you my email address, info, I-N-F-O, at indedu.org. Please make sure you buy Mr. Glover's books, I Am Black Wall Street, and unapologetically black. Sorry about that, Don.
It's all good. And if you want to come on the show, just call me. I keep it simple, 443-858-2684. We'd love to bring you on the show. We want to keep this discussion going. Tavis, how long have we been having these conversations? Maybe 5 years now?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. And we're
before COVID, actually.
Before COVID, yes. And looking forward to bringing Be More News and Black Wall Street to Philadelphia. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, please reach out to Mr. Glover, and or you can reach out to us, because we would love to bring the Black Wall Street to Philadelphia. I have Mr. Glover share that space here in this area. So definitely we need your support, both of us. Y'all see us trying to do some good things, and thank y'all very much for checking us out.
Good deal. Thank you, Tab. Good morning, world. Great job, Tab.